or a white man behind this illusion of darkness.
Racism starts in society. I don't think it's down. Obviously, the fascists, the real Nazi National Front people, they're just nasty. Got nothing better to do. But I'm talking about racism, which everybody has a bit of racism in them, and I think that's not their fault. It's not an individual problem. It's a problem of society.
Black people will never be treated the same as white people because of the way society is, and we have to accept that and do something about it ourselves.
B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in this world of today? Get tripped, fall on your face. Nigga boy ain't gonna run in my race. Keep him on the floor and kick him more and more. Keep him on the floor and kick him till he's sore. He's black, he's a nigga and he's black. Kick him in the head and kick him in the back. B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in this world of today?
Where do we stand in the world today?
Get back to the back of the cube. Black, and who are you? Black spot.
Black mark. Black stain.
Black pain.
Black!
I'm not racist against anybody, blacks, whites, Indians, Chinese, don't matter what colour they are, but I don't like people that are racist, even if they're like black people who don't like white people. I don't like things like that, and I don't like white people that don't like black people. I don't like that kind of thing. Those are the only people that I'm against. Staying against them people because of their colour. Just against them because they think they're somebody because of their colour. And they're just stupid.
You've got to live with it, but at the same time, it's not nice knowing that, you know, you're going to be called black, whatever, or something. But you've got to live with it, and instead of fighting back, because for a start, they do class black people as animals anyway. They say you're an animal, you know. I think you've got to like try and show them that you're into. Although it hurts, yeah, to take abuse, you've got to like get used to it and just. You can't laugh it off, but you've got to like find other ways of solving other than being violent.
There's always been somebody who thinks of himself as superior to somebody else, and they pick on certain things. They pick on colour. There's loads of different types of prejudice and that. But like to get somewhere, they pick on something. You're black, so you go over there. You know, you're white. You're all right. You can go wherever. I suppose it's picking on people because they're different.
Racism has got a lot to do with ignorance, and quite a lot of white people are ignorant towards black people and towards their culture, and because they can't understand it, they have to knock it down all the time and criticise it, which is wrong.
I'm an isolated nigger boy. I'm on my own with me. I'm an isolated nigger boy. They dropped me in a white sea. I'm an isolated nigger boy, a failure file sat on a shelf. I'm an isolated nigger boy, they kept me away from myself. I'm an isolated nigger boy, they cheated my mind but could not cheat my skin. I'm an isolated nigger boy, what's this world I'm living in? The colour of my skin has given reality a voice. For an isolated nigger boy, I took a harsh choice.
Racism means one race who believe that they're superior to another. For example, social services, they place a black child in care and they put them within a white foster home, white community, because they think that that is better for the black child. The black child will grow up better.
There's definitely racism in the care system. When they take the kids into care, irrespective of their background, they just treat them all the same, regardless if they have special needs. They don't take time out to find out how to look after black children. They cut your hair because they don't know how to look after it. Everybody eats the same food. If you don't like it, you have to eat it anyway. There's a lot of black kids where I was brought up, but all the staff are white.
With racism, it can come in two forms. It comes in two ways. You can have people who, some of the staff who'd outrightly just turn around and call you a black bastard if you're misbehaving, or it can come in the other form where it's very subtle, but it's still just as offensive. When when there's something on the TV about black people, like when the riots were on, in Brixton. You know, the staff used to say things like, oh, they're all the same, them blacks, you know, they've got everything and they want more, you know, all that sort of thing.
It's really hard to explain what racism is. It's, you know you're different. Now, it could be adverse or beneficial, but in general, it's adverse. If somebody sees you, like we used to go to Devon for holidays with the children's home, and we used to have people running down the street behind us because they've never seen black people before and trying to touch our hair to say, well, is it like cotton wool and things like that? Which was horrible to think, well, this is our country and they don't know us. They don't know what we're like. But then also it was just ignorance on their parts because they didn't know us. That's one form of racism. There's another form of racism where they just assume because you're black, you're inferior. I mean, that's the worst kind.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot of racism in the care system. Because me, my sister and my brother was put into a children's home in Ware. I don't remember much of that because I was young, but then we was moved to Stevenage in an all-white neighbourhood, and all the staff were white. And me and my brother and my sister were the only black kids there. And when I look back at it now, I realise that the women and all the rest of the staff there were really racist, but we didn't really realise at the time. We was ashamed of our culture. We didn't like to think ourselves as African, and we didn't really like visits from our dad. We didn't really like to see him. It's because that the people there, the staff there, didn't really teach us about ourselves and about our culture and about the way the black people are.
I face racism, like I said. I was born within a black community, but I was placed within the white community, and I was placed with white foster parents. So I grew up wishing that I was white. I was called, because it was a white community, I was called, you know, a lot of names, but I used to just wish I was white because I was just brought up to think black was bad.
I born but did not hold no name. I a picture but did not have no frame. I a white boy covered in soot. I a black boy kept from my root. I born black boy, black for a night. I born black and I forced to be white. I born in 67 and always held, they say it's heaven.
I alone. They changed my name, I alone. They drive me insane, I alone. They forced me to believe, I alone. With their cunning they deceive, I alone. They move my life, I alone. And now I've seen my culture is right, I alone. Now it's myself I must fight, I alone.
I was fostered from when I was a baby, from when I was 2 weeks old till I was nearly 5, by white foster parents who were very good to me. They provided, I suppose, stability which I wouldn't have got if I was at home. With like family, whatever, you know, they accepted me as part of their family. You know, I used to call my foster mother Mum and my foster father Dad, and like brothers and sisters and that. But like, I just thought I was one of them really. But the only reason I found out was because when I was taken away from them for a spell, and I went back to live with my father, and we lived on a racist estate, and the kids just wouldn't accept me as being white. And I was called all sorts of names, racist names. I was threatened with glass, and I was catapulted with stones, and was locked up, and all sorts of things, and I couldn't pass myself off no way. But like the old foster mother and that, they didn't think colour was that important, really. You know, it was me, I suppose. They didn't really understand.
When I was at school, a lot of the black girls there didn't really want to talk to me because I was in a children's home and stuff. And we couldn't communicate, and it was only because my cousin was in a sound system that they finally started to accept me as a black person. Whereas before I used to be always hanging out with white people, and I used to always be thinking, oh, I wish I was white in a way because I'd be accepted much easier. And sometimes I used to be ashamed of my blackness. And it's only now since I'm older that I've seen the positive side of being black, that we're just as human as the rest of the races, and it shouldn't be, oh, because you're a chink or a Chinaman or something like that, you're worse. Just because they give you these names like chinks or Pakistani or Paki, that means you're much worse than a white person.
I was brought up by a white family, a white middle-class family, and then that broke down when I was 12 years old, and I went into a children's home. And it was a white children's home as well. And the people from the children's home and the people from the place where I live built my security for me, sort of thing. And that happened for about 4 years. And by building security, I mean making me a person for them, not making me a person for myself, you know. And I enjoy being made a person for everybody else, you know what I mean? Everybody else sort of saying, you are this. And I enjoyed that. I mean, that's great, you know, that's the easy way out sort of thing. But I didn't know that then. I just took it, you know what I mean? Just accepted it because it was fun. And I took that for 4 years. And then I started coming aware. And when you start getting aware that people have made you, you know what I mean? And you are nothing made yourself, then you have to break it down, you know what I mean? Once you start being aware of things, you can't fall back, you know what I mean? And that's what I started doing, and it was as though there was a foundation, and everybody else had built the bricks on that foundation, you know what I mean? And I had to knock all those bricks over and just be left with a foundation, which was just the actual physical colour of my skin, because I didn't know the mental attitude or spiritual attitude to the colour of my skin.
Well, when I was in care, I didn't really know about being black because I was always brought up to be white, the same as everybody else. So I didn't know nothing about it, really. I knew that I was different to the other kids. I don't think I got treated any differently, which I should have done, I think. I mean, I think there's various things they could have done with me to have made it easier for me when I left care. But, I mean, I don't think that I noticed being black when I was in care, really. Because, like, there was no other black kids around me, and I had nothing really to identify with. I just was the same as everybody else. I think it was just lack of understanding from the staff that they didn't treat me black, but they actually treated me the same as everybody else, and they wanted me to be the same as everybody else. You can tell by the way I speak anyway. So it was their want, you know, that they wanted to treat me the same as everybody else, and I was, and I didn't learn. I mean, I don't suppose I didn't gain anything from that, you know what I mean? I didn't gain anything. So, I mean, when I was 18, it was hard for me to accept that I was black and to be able to say to people, look, I don't know about that because I was in care.
When you're young, you don't realise that you're black or that you're really different. You know you look different to other kids, but you don't go around saying, I'm black and you're white, because kids just grow up. You don't actually say, you know, talk about your colour. But when I was about 7, kids at school were calling me nigger and black bastard and things like that. I couldn't understand why. And then I realised that I was different, you know, really different, not just, you know, a bit darker. So it was really when I was about 7. You know, otherwise, you know, I mingled with the rest of the kids. As far as I'm concerned, everybody was the same, apart from their different shades of skin.
It was such a crime to be black. It was, you know, I felt ashamed of it. Really. I think that's because, like, for the first 5 years of my life, I was brought up by white people, and those years are the most important years, really. And I suppose a lot of the stuff what happened then, I mean, is with me now.
Ain't no Ain't no clothes to wear, no. Ain't nobody to know. Ain't nowhere to come and nowhere to go. Ain't no belongings at last. Ain't no reminder of no past. Ain't no reason to give. Ain't no reason to live. Ain't no love to take. Ain't no love to fake. Ain't no reason to cheat. Ain't nobody to beat. Ain't nobody to belong. Ain't no one heard this song. Ain't even got a tune. Ain't even got a bloom. Ain't got no mother. Ain't got no father. Ain't got no sister. Ain't got no brother. Ain't no light for my cigarette. Ain't no cigarette.
When I was about 10 or 11, I started to be more aware that I was black. I wanted to be black, in fact. I thought, to hell with it.
I always remember when I was younger, when I found out that my dad was Nigerian, going to the library and just picking up an encyclopedia and looking under N, and all I ever knew about Nigeria until I was 18 was what it had in that encyclopedia. I suppose I wanted to know then, but I mean I couldn't express myself properly at that age. Didn't know how to get what I wanted.
I think it was when I was about 40 when I started realising my black identity. I think it had a lot to do with two black staff that were in the home at the time. And I started, me and my sister started talking about blackness and things like that. They used to take us out places. We used to go out to a black art gallery that was near Euston. And as time went on, we began to really realise ourselves, and we used to be more and more interested, and we used to watch programmes and things like that. But it was also difficult as well because the rest of the kids in the home started saying that we kept on talking about black too much, that we were racist, and even some of the staff we felt a bit threatened by it as well, because people feel threatened.
You're brought up by white people who are in themselves racist. And then when they're teaching you what they think is right for you, but they're putting across their racist views, and you're brought up and you're thinking, well, mate, yeah, they're right, because so many people are saying to me it's right. And if you've got no background, nobody that's black, that's not in a children's home, that's been brought up in a black environment, that to fall back on, it's sort of, you're always thinking, yeah, they're right, and you feel the negative parts about you. But they're so saying a lot of black people that have been in children's home have done very well for themselves, you know, just like Bruno and people like that. But then they haven't come to terms with the blackness in them. They end up denying it because it's a part of themselves that's negative, that they don't want to know, which is unfair. Because it isn't negative, it's a part of themselves that they don't understand. And I think that's what children's homes do to you. It makes you less unable to understand your blackness. You see it as a problem, which it isn't.
I faced racism with the white people around my life while I was in a white community. So that wasn't the problem. The problem was being aware of my identity, being aware that I'm a black person and mixing with the black people.
When I was 2 years old, my mother was forced to leave me and she had to go back to Africa. So I was fostered to an all-black family in a black area. So I never really experienced much racism, or I never really had an identity crisis because I was always secure where I was, and I always had people to turn to if I wanted to ask any questions. You know, I've lived in a black area for, 15 years. You know, I've got a black family and they've all accepted me as their son. So I've suffered racism, but not through fostering. You know, every black person suffers racism, but not through, the fostering system. So I've always felt pretty secure and safe, whereas most black kids who have been in care haven't. Whereas I haven't had to go into a residential home or with white foster parents.
I was fostered to white foster parents, middle class, but this was in the 60s, remember, and there were a lot more not understanding then, you know what I mean? I was fostered by white foster parents, middle class, teacher, nurse, you know what I mean, that sort of thing, and brought up totally not to know my culture. I think a lot of people are like that, and some people even like it like that. You know what I mean? But the reason I think it's wrong and I hate it is, for one, it can break down, and for two, when that person, there's always a time in your life when you're on their own, and when that person's on their own, they're going to ask themselves who they are, they're not going to know, you know what I mean?
It's good being fostered with a black family. I think anybody who's fostered, you know, if you're dealing with care and they live with foster parents who believe in making you do things for yourself, you stand a better chance than kids who leave straight from children's home.
People used to take the mickey out of me, and that used to upset me a bit. Used to cry sometimes. And then finally I got moved from that family and put in a care, and that's when I started realising that people had stolen my identity from me. People in care had been mean to what you might call an illegitimate, but not in the meaning of a child. It meant mean to a nasty person, sort of. Because I was angry that people didn't tell me all this before. That's why it made me sort of angry. I was sort of angry at first that people was hiding it from me, sort of thing. I didn't know all this, and I felt kind of revengeful. I still do.
I remember when I was in care, there was a member of staff who I just got bad vibes by just speaking to him and that, and he was racist. And the reason I knew he was racist is because when I told him that somebody was prejudiced, he refused to acknowledge it. He was saying, oh, you know, black people got a chip on their shoulder, blah, 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 and whatever. And he just seemed to not really want to know, you know, it was sort of, you know, as if it wasn't there.
That's the attitude that we've got to get away from. People saying, because you're black, that's your problem. It isn't our problem, it's the people who interpret it. And that's white people, that's their problem. We feel the result of their problem.
There's no peace in a town when your skin's so brown as I is. There's no peace in my mind when the people them lined at the bus stop and them glare at me lot. Mr. Ross, Mr. Ross, Mr. Ross at the people in the cars. Them have people going here and there's people going there. Them have to take a look, but them not care about the trouble them cause when they mash them laws of equality. Second look at me, no equality, no free. There's no peace in a town when your skin's so brown as I is. Hustle and bustle can't turn eye back. Must carry a sign, my skin is black. There's no peace in a town when your skin's so brown as I is. You don't wake up one morning and say, look man, I'm black. It's not dramatic, but it's even more dramatic because it's dragged over a long time. And it's easy to say, I mean, it's a lot more dramatic to say, oh, it happened overnight and I woke up in the morning, look, wow, I'm black sort of thing. It's a lot harder to say, it went over a year and a half, and it was hard and it was a struggle and it was painful, you know what I mean? I mean, that's what it's like. You don't just wake up in the morning and think, I'm black, I've got to do something about it, you know. You end up saying, I'm black, then you've got to go through all the questioning of all the people, because you've got to ask them, because they've made you, you know what I mean? You've got to ask them people, or question them people, and when you realise that they are what you are, you question yourself. And it's when you get to yourself that you sort of click. You know, so really subtle sort of click. You know, and then you've got to go, then you've got to start searching. Then you've got to get over that pain, and then start searching. It's a really long, well, it has been for me a long process, and it can be hurting. It can come up to paranoia, you know what I mean? And deep depression and that sort of thing, which you can only learn from when you're out of it, when you're in it. I mean, you're enveloped. My blackness was like an excuse. My blackness was like that thing that like not made me aware. It was sort of there all the time, you know what I mean? Like when you go through paranoia and that, you're churned up with loads of things, but there's always a foundation, you know what I mean? And the foundation probably was definitely a loss of identity. And the identity was definitely black. So it does come round to blackness, definitely. Even though I wouldn't be thinking black, black, black all the time, because I'd be too freaked out by everybody.
When I discovered my culture, that's very difficult because I don't really know much about my culture, to be honest. I learnt some at school, bits from my family, But really, I think I discovered my identity when I was about 7. I've always been my own person, and I take my views from what I see and from my experiences. People have tried to put things onto me and put pressure on me, but I formed my own opinions, and I took the pressure from them because my home life was far worse than the life in the home. So I just took that, and I used to say to them, yeah, okay, yeah, and agree with them, which really did annoy them. But I found myself a long time ago.
Culture is something where, you know, it's your background, basically. You know where you're coming from, you know where your people have been, you know your history, and it helps you feel as if you belong, and everybody needs to have that feeling of belonging. My culture was African-orientated, with a lot of Caribbean slung in as well, plus some of the white colonial ideas as well. But I think it's a background, it's my history, that's my culture.
When people say to me like something about music or anything to do with black culture, some things I still don't understand. I say, well, the reason, and when I explain it to them, I say the reason why I don't understand was because I was brought up in a children's home with all white people, and I don't know about that, so explain it to me, because I want to know. You know, so I mean, and now I've accepted my identity, and I don't find it a problem anymore.
I think it's important to understand who you are, what you are, where you've come from, your history. I think it's a sense of identity. You should be proud of what you are, whatever colour you are, and your culture and all the rest of it.
Identity is knowing who you are, I think. Knowing who you are, what you are, and what's made you.
Life is threatening to strangle me. Every knock at my door chokes me, but I haven't got the courage to finish off the job. People tell me life can't be so bad and depressing, but I wake up every morning wishing I wasn't here. I turn up my reggae music, hoping it will put me in a better frame of mind, and it does for a time. But what happens when the music stops? That when the pressure starts to drop from me?
I can't face this life alone, 'cause I've always lived in a home. Thrown out at 17 with no friends or family. Thank you, social services, for your hospitality. Here I am in a black community, a grown-up white, but they can't see. Which do I turn to, white or black? I don't step forward, I can't step back. Help me, someone, please, define my culture and identity. Why could I not have these when I was young? They brought me up to think being black is wrong. Black people out there, you've got to be aware, for it's bad for your child to be in care.
What can be done to alleviate the problem of black children in care is to introduce more black foster parents and probably more black residential workers who can, you know, help the black kids.
To help me, they could have, for one, got me books. For two, encouraged me mentally, you know what I mean? That it should be black, not black children's homes, but mixed children's homes, being mixed. You know what I mean? I mean, if you started separating the blacks from the whites, then it'd get even worse, sort of thing. But there definitely should be mixed, and I don't believe in any black person, especially after falling down with white foster parents, after that breaking down. I don't believe that that black person should then be put into a white children's home.
Kids aren't really prepared for racism outside. They're not really told about the racism they'll get when they look for jobs and they refuse because of the colour of their skin, or from racism from the police. They know about it, but they're not really prepared, they're not really shown how to handle it. And also from the rest of the white community. And it can come to a big shock for people who don't really think about it so much. We should employ more black staff who know the problems of the black community and black kids in care. And maybe a lot of staff also that have been in care themselves, because they'd understand the problems more. I find that those staff are the better staff, the ones that have been in care themselves. And they should also just bring in more books and videos, and maybe some people from the black community come and talk to them about certain things like sickle cell and back home in the West Indies or Africa, so they don't, you know, find it so difficult when they move out.
when you bring up kids in care, they shouldn't all be treated the same. For instance, the hair's totally different with black children. You can't, you know, if you can't comb it, you just, you know, you can't just cut it off. Or if it's grown long, it's got to be combed. And it's just tied into a knot and left. You know, and I don't buy any special oils for you. They give you Vaseline to put on your face and your legs. And you just go to school and sit in the hall, and when you get up, there's a big grease mark. It's so embarrassing. Hair care doesn't cost too much. If you start getting into flash styles and wet looks, perms, well, perms cost a lot of money for anybody. We're just asking that, I mean, hair can be cut, that doesn't cost too much. Conditioners don't cost too much. There's no reason why they can't be bought. If you're going to buy shampoos and conditioners for someone who's white, you can buy them for someone who's black. There's no difference in price.
Like creams for your skin, the food, what you have to eat. I mean, a lot of us black kids come into care and we're not used to the type of English food what is dished out in children's homes and that. And you get it in foster homes as well, and they're very unaware of like stuff what you had at home and that. And I think it's important because it makes you feel more at home. Although you're not at home, it makes you feel more at home if you've got like things around which are familiar to you.
I think that there should be more black staff in the care system because there are a lot of black kids in care. And I don't think there should be tokens. You know, like all these equal opportunities. I don't think it should be just as a token. I think it should be, they should have positive black staff there to project positive images on the young people so as they feel good about and they know about their culture.
B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today? Well, I've got no time for subtlety to give you what you want from me. I've tried and tried, and all I've lied, I've tried again and again and again and again, and all my trying's been in vain. And now I'm left crying on the floor, left in rags, and I am so poor, and under these rags of which I wear is me. Yes, I am the nigger boy, yes, I am the nigger girl. Now that they know that I'm black, they ask me, where do I live? Oh, why do I feel so taking no give? Say, listen, officer, I'm in a children's home. He says, hey, step back, you're on your own. I said, I'll B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world of today?
Where do we stand in the world today? B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today? B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today? B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today? B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today?
Black.
B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today? B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today?
Black.
B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today?
Black.
B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today?
Black.
B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today?
Black.
B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today?
Black.
B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today?
Black.
B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today?
Black.
B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today?
Black.
B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today? B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today? B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today? B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today? B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today? B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today? B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today? B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today? B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today? B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand in the world today? B-L-A-C-K, where do we stand?